Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Wilmette Zoning Board of Appeals. Ms. Roberts, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Boyer.
Here.
Mr. Colang.
Here.
Ms. Norick.
Here.
Mr. Schneider.
Here.
Mr. Sermon.
Here.
Chairman Duffy.
Present. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you new to our proceedings, the purpose of this board is to hear evidence on applications for variances from our zoning ordinance and on applications for special use. Based upon the evidence we hear this evening, we will make a recommendation to the Village Board of Trustees as to whether the applications that come before us should be granted or denied. We will vote to recommend granting or denying each application for variation based on whether the application meets the standards of review set forth in Section 5.4.f of our Village Ordinance. Applications for special use will be considered based upon whether the standards of review set forth in Section 5.3.e of our Village Ordinance are met. Village Board of Trustees will consider the recommendations we make this evening at their next regularly scheduled meeting on
I just had it. April 23rd.
Thank you. Our recommendations to the board are advisory only. The Village Board has the final say on all applications and will make its own determination as to whether to grant or deny them. The Village Board is not legally bound by our recommendations. There's one small exception to this rule. If this board makes a negative recommendation with respect to an application, in order for the Village Board of Trustees to approve that application, a supermajority of 5 Village Board members must vote to approve it rather than a simple majority of 4. There's one other small peculiarity to our proceedings of which you should be aware. This board does not operate by majority vote. We operate instead by a tyranny of 4. In other words, no matter how many board members are present on a given evening, in order to get a positive recommendation from this board, an application must receive 4 affirmative votes. Ordinarily, this board consists of 7 members. Tonight, however, due to a vacancy, we have 6 members present. Ms. Roberts, as Assistant Director of Community Development, sits with us tonight in an advisory capacity only and is not a voting member of the board. Please be aware, therefore, that a vote of 3-3, which is a tie, will technically go into the record as a negative recommendation with the legal effect I had previously described. In recognition of this unusual feature of our procedure, when we do not have all members of the board present on a given evening, we give the applicants who are scheduled to come before us that night the option of requesting a continuance to the next available date on our schedule. The next available date for any applicant who would like to request a continuance this evening is?
April 17th.
Thank you again. There is no penalty for asking for a continuance. No such request will be held against you when your case is eventually heard. If you wish to ask for a continuance, however, you must do so at the beginning of your presentation before making any substantive arguments as to the merits of your case. Please also be aware that if you request a continuance, there is no guarantee as to how many board members will be present on the evening to which your case is continued. The cases we shall hear this evening will be heard in the order set forth on the pre-printed agenda located on the table near the door where you first came in. When your case is called, please proceed to the podium, state your name and address, and tell us exactly why your application meets the standards of review that are applicable to it. Each member of the board is a longtime resident of the village and has visited your property during the past week. In addition, we have received from village staff these green booklets containing all written information that you have submitted in support of your application, as well as any other correspondence that the village has received. Accordingly, it is not necessary that you repeat what you have already stated in writing. Please just hit the high points with particular attention to why you believe your application meets the standards of review. After the applicant has had a chance to speak, we'll open the podium to others who wish to speak either for or against the application. Everyone will be permitted to have their say, though we would ask that you keep your comments as short and to the point as possible. After we have heard all oral presentations, I will close the evidence and the members of the board will discuss what they have heard and take a vote. Once the evidence is closed, no further testimony on an application may be offered. The only people entitled to speak during that part of the proceeding will be the members of the board. This meeting is a legal proceeding, and all testimony tonight must be given under oath. If you are here and planning to testify tonight, I would ask that you raise your right hand at this time and be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that you will tell the truth in the testimony that you are about to give? If so, please say, I do. Thank you. Ms. Roberts, will you please call the first case of the evening?
Our first case is 2019 Z10, 127 16th Street. The applicant was unexpectedly called out of town and unable to attend tonight. There's an email there. So we're asking that this be continued to April 17, please.
Do I have a motion
So
to
moved.
continue? Thank you. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well.
Our next case is 2019 Z9, 1110 Seneca Road. This is a request for a 16.78-foot rear yard of a double frontage lot swimming pool setback variation to permit the construction of an in-ground swimming pool.
Hey, welcome.
So just to restate my name, Roxy Friel, 1110 Seneca. Okay. Thank you for listening. This is the first time I've done this, so please let me know
Yeah,
if
you're
I should
fine.
be doing something different. And this has a lot to do with measurements and very specific, so I'll do my best. But if I round, that's okay, right? Or,
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to mention is that we do have a letter of support from our direct neighbor. I don't know if I need to give this to anyone, or?
You can bring it up here. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
And we did have verbal support. We started talking about this project last year from our other direct neighbor. But they're out of town for the winter, so we didn't get a chance to get a letter from them. So what we would like to do is put in an in-ground swimming pool, and we are proposing it to be 50 by 20 feet, primarily because we're interested in having a dual-purpose pool, so a lap pool as well as a leisure pool. And the reason for the lap pool is interest, but also there's various health issues which are mentioned in the letter from our family that it would be helpful. The main issue is obviously the setback in our rear yard, which is the 40 feet. And because of the shape of our yard, it is like a pie, and so there's a corner of it that's sort of cut off. So one side of our house, there's 75 feet from the house to the street, but on the other side of the house, there's only 58 feet. So if we were to follow the 40-foot setback, that would only give us 18 feet for the width of the pool, the deck, the passageway. So it obviously wouldn't really work. And the reason is because it's a double frontage lot, so it's treated like a front yard, not like a backyard. So I guess right now I'm sort of explaining the first question is the particular difficulty or hardship. I've been told that our lot length is shorter than required by the zoning ordinance for our district. That matters. The other kind of peculiarity of our house is on the north side, which is where we have the shorter amount of rear yard. Our house comes out more. So, and the other thing I just wanted to point out is in the front yard, our house is situated 52 feet back, so it is conforming, but not too much there. But, we bought the house after it was already built, so had nothing to do with that. So what we're proposing is the 16-ish or 17, if I round up, foot setback. And what that would do was give us a 14-foot passageway between the house and the edge of the pool. And how we came up with that was well, first of all, I guess there was really no way for us to make it so it was completely conforming. Like I said, it was impossible, really, with the 58 feet on that side, and even if we squeezed the pool all the way to the side of the yard, where it was just 10 feet away, we wouldn't be able to get it would only be able to be about 35 feet, which is obviously not, most lap pools are minimum 50 feet. So since we couldn't do it completely conforming, we tried to figure out what we thought would be kind of just the most reasonable. And so, like I said, so we put it so it was 14 feet between the north end pool and stairs. I think that there is a 10-foot electrical clearance. And so I'm not clear, but it just seems like you would want the pool to be 10 foot from the house. I don't know if it has to be 10 foot from like a plug-in, or I'm not sure what that is. But anyway, other than that, the 14 feet was a little bit arbitrary between the 10 and 14. That's how we came up with that. Now, the other things we ran into when we were trying, if we were to try to make it really small, not a lap pool all the way, is on the south side of our yard, we have a big garden with trees, and all of that would have to be replaced, and we'd have to add extra landscaping for privacy. So right now, the way we have the pool situated, so it goes right up against that garden, it to the south, and then this is why we did the 14 feet from. The other thing that does is it puts the pool right up against our existing patio in some areas, so that we don't have to do anything with that. As it is in the plan, there is 25 to 28 feet of a setback from the side yards, so there's plenty of room to be away from our neighbors, which we thought would be helpful. And then, that's kind of those were kind of our thoughts in terms of the number one, the physical conditions for the practical difficulty or hardship. Do I need to explain more? Does anyone have questions?
Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I have a couple questions for Lisa. I just want to confirm a couple things. One, if this house was in an interior lot without a double frontage, this pool is in a conforming location?
Correct.
All right. And then I was just trying to wrap my head around because it seems like some of the language wasn't. I needed to get some of the language that this case is based on. So what's truly the spirit of the double frontage setback provision, and why is it treated as a front yard?
I believe the idea is that because it is fronting on a street, that it does function, it's visible the same way potentially a front yard would be. And so to maintain sort of that open feel that you would have in a front yard would apply to the rear yard as well. In practice, most of our double frontage lots don't really work that way,
Right.
Along Glenview Road, for example.
Okay. It's just more of like a visual
I believe
issue.
so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except there's a fence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
right.
6 foot. Any other questions for our applicant? No? None whatsoever? No? Okay. All right, everybody's. Oh, I know. I was trying to figure out 50 feet. And I can push off and do about 3 strokes, and I'm at the other end, but that's me. I'm kidding.
Prior to the Olympics?
Yeah, prior to the Special Olympics. Thanks, Bob.
Do you want me to go through the rest of the stuff?
I think everybody's kind of got a handle on it.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good, so I don't think you need to present any more right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask if there's anybody in the audience that wants to speak either for or against this case. Don't all rush up here. Yeah, so I'm going to close the case, and I'm going to ask if there's a member of the board that wants to make a motion here. Mr. Sermon's going to make the motion. And you
I
can have
move
a
to
seat.
recommend granting a request for a 16.78 rear yard of a double frontage flat swimming pool setback variation to permit the construction of an in-ground swimming pool at 1110 Seneca Road in accordance with the plan submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Boyer, second. Thank you very much. Mr. Sermon, your motion.
I think the hardship really is, like we had talked about, just the double frontage.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd be able to go ahead without a variance. So,
Right, and that all these houses along Illinois Road, this is their backyard, and it's treated that way, yeah.
so I can support it. I think that's probably all there is to it.
Yeah.
Mr. Boyer?
I think it meets all the standards of review.
Right. Anybody else want to make any comments? No? All right. Why don't we take a vote? Or I should say, I feel the same.
Okay. Mr. Sermon,
Yes.
Mr. Boyer,
Yes.
Mr. Colang,
Yes.
Ms. Nord,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Chairman Duffy.
Chair votes yes as well. So that's going to go as a positive recommendation to Village Board. Meeting was April
23rd.
23rd in this same room. So I'd suggest you're here, but it'll probably be on consent agenda, so it would be in the first 15 minutes of the meeting. And if there's any opportunity for somebody to create a discussion on it, they would pull it off and they would notify you that there's going to be discussion. But since we voted unanimously and it's pretty obvious what's going on, I think it'll slide right through for you. If you could you come up and sign one of these notices for us and then take the other one with you? Thank you.
Move to authorize the chairman to prepare the report and recommendation for the Zoning Board of Appeals for case number 2019-Z09.
Second, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Aye as well. Welcome. When you're ready.
Our next case is 2019-Z11, 611 9th Street. This is a request for a 10.6-foot rear yard deck setback variation, a 4.6-foot rear yard parking pad setback variation, a 106.04 square foot rear yard structure impervious surface coverage variation, and a 32.57 square foot rear yard total impervious surface coverage variation to permit the construction of a new deck and a new parking pad.
Welcome.
Thank you. Can I plug in, or do I not need to show?
Yeah. Let's see what happens.
Can I plug in here, or is there?
Oh, there should be. Is there not a computer there?
Oh, okay. Or I can just go off the.
So there's if you have any visual aids yet, we can just put them on this board right here, and there's an overhead camera, but no computer.
Oh, okay. No, I don't. I mean, I think everyone has what I submitted. It's the same stuff.
And you're referring to these?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But for the 3 people that watch us on TV, they might be interested in seeing the photos.
Could be. I'll hold them up in the air. So thank you for your time. My name is Joshua Sachs. I live at 611 9th Street. That's on 9th between Central and Greenleaf. I'm here kind of for asking for a variance for kind of 2 components to my house. As you can see, I have a very small property. It's 60 feet by 50 feet. My house was built in 1917, so it's an existing non-conforming lot. I can't do anything to the property without requiring a variance. You could also see from the existing site plan, I don't have anywhere to park my car on my property, which most of the time is actually not too bad. I can park on 9th Street, but there's certainly times where it becomes a pretty big inconvenience. I live half a block from Central School. There's restrictions when I can drive down 9th Street for pickup and drop off. I live across from First Presbyterian Church. On Sundays, it's very hard to get street parking. Typically, when I'm getting groceries, we get home and then there's nowhere to unload really the groceries, so we kind of put our car in the alley and unload from there. And then, third, during the winter, during snow emergencies, it's quite problematic at times. And, there's a village-wide parking bans.
How do you manage that?
Yeah.
There's parking restrictions on snow days. How do you manage that?
Not well.
No, I'm curious.
Yeah.
I have a neighbor who's very friendly and very nice, and when we know there's a snowstorm coming, he allows me to put my car there. Other times, I have to literally park my car in Evanston.
Seriously?
And because I take the Purple Line to work, and sometimes we park it there. We take Ubers there to get our car. I have 2 small kids. It's very challenging at times.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
So I've contacted the city multiple times. There's nowhere I can put my car in the city.
Right.
So, in the village. So that's a challenge. So kind of in devising where we put our parking pad, or where we propose to put our parking pad, we thought kind of the best, we kind of cited a bunch of iterations, and it's such a small property, we didn't want to kind of take away all the green space on our property, and there's really not enough room to get a garage on the west side, so on the plan looking down. So there's like about 10 feet 4 inches between our house and our neighbors, and our property line, and that's kind of also where our neighbor's garage is as well. So we kind of just wanted to, get in what we could get in. 10 feet wide is, 4 inches off the property line, and 10 feet's kind of, even that's, slightly uncomfortable to park a car on, but it's kind of the best we could do given the situation. And then the 26-foot 6-inch dimension kind of comes from, one, we wanted our car like not to project out past our house, so we wanted like that. Our house is about 3 feet off the alley, so we wanted our car, clear of there. We have a minivan, and we want enough space to be able to navigate around it, and then also to put our trash and recycling in front of it. So that's how we kind of came up with that 26-foot 6-inch dimension. So that's the pad, the parking pad. The second component is the deck. And the deck really kind of comes from us. We lived in the house for 2 years and kind of how we use the property. And right now we essentially have no connection between our house and our yard. And it's just hard to use the yard, what little we have. We have to send our kids. If we want to go outside, we have to essentially we have to go around the property in order to get to kind of the side of our house. So it really comes from the idea of having convenience off the house, allowing our kids to kind of go. Essentially, we want to create an opening from our kitchen in that southwest corner to the deck, and have our kids be able to go out and enjoy the yard without having to either go around the house through the alley or go around through the sidewalk. And the size of it's really, just enough to navigate from the proposed parking pad, up the deck and into where our kitchen is, and then kind of just enough space for a table and a grill. And I put together some of those additional exhibits just so you can understand what the spaces are like, and I know you guys all have visited the property. Essentially what we're trying to do is just trying to create some practicality and some comfort, and hopefully you agree that we're not trying to propose anything over the top. And that's pretty much all I have.
All right, great. We have any questions for the applicant?
So you don't have to remove that tree that's in your yard?
Correct. I do not have to remove the tree. In the exhibit, you can see I have like a small, it's a weird, I don't call it a mudroom, I don't call it a porch, I don't know what it is and how you use it, but essentially we would get rid of it to make way for the parking pad.
Anybody else? Any questions?
The entire mudroom, existing mudroom, is going to be demoed
Correct.
and then bricked and stuccoed, or at least closed up and stuccoed, so that the door is going to be gone.
Correct. The door would be gone. Yes.
And then there's, I peeked over and I see in the pictures, there's flagstone.
Correct.
Down.
So all of that would be removed. Yes.
All of that would be removed. So it's existing impervious surface. And then the reason why you didn't want a garage in that space?
I do want a garage.
No, but right, they're
It's
not
just-
asking for it though.
I'm not. It's just not wide enough. So once you build, you're under 10 feet. It's just not enough room.
I mean, on your yard though. Let's say.
In the front yard?
Instead of a deck, you're like, hey, I want a
My wife,
20 by 22
my wife
garage.
just does not want to give up the
yard?
The yard, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Plus, you would need a curb cut, right?
Correct. Yes.
Well, they give them on Lake Street, so I'm sure they'll give them here.
Oh, my God.
Right.
Stir the pot, Mike, stir the pot.
I have a question.
Yes.
How close is the garage to your lot line?
It's about my neighbor's garage.
Your
It's about
neighbor's
18 inches from my lot line.
A concern that I have is if it was icy and you could easily slip right into their garage possibly. So, I don't know if you'd want to put a curb along that side or any protection to protect their garage, or just buy insurance.
Oh, you mean the car slipping in there?
Yeah, I'm thinking the car pulling in when they're only this far. You're pulling around. If it's a little icy or snow,
Yeah.
you could slide and damage there. So it's
I mean, my only
that
concern.
would be the only thing.
Then
They're
you're
too
limiting.
close. They're too close, and
Yeah, but, what's a parking space width? 9 feet at a minimum, right?
yeah.
Right. And he's got just over 10 feet. You take out a curb, which is 4 to 6 inches.
Yeah.
That then he'd probably would he have to ask for a variance to put a curb right on the property line? Like a concrete line? No?
Part of this paving.
You could get away with
Just
it?
something to
Okay.
consider.
Yeah. All right.
Because most of the time the garage is 3 feet over,
Right.
and then the drive is not that close to. So pulling in a little ice.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Everybody's got their head around this? Seeing nobody in the audience, I'm not going to ask if there's anybody that wants to come up and speak either for or against the case. And make sure you've offered everything that you have to add. Anything else, you're good?
Yeah, that's all I have. Yep.
Then I'm going to see if one of our board members would like to make a motion in this case. All right, Mr. Schneider, thank you very much. You can have a seat. Well,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Need a second?
No, I need you to make the motion.
Oh. I do.
You're just used to being the chairman. I understand.
Thank you. Move to recommend granting in case number 20019-C-11, move to recommend granting a request for a 10-foot-6 rear yard deck setback variation, a 4.6-foot rear yard parking pad setback variation, 106 square foot, 7% rear yard structure impervious surface coverage variation, and a 32.57 square foot, 2% rear yard total impervious surface coverage variation to permit the construction of a new deck and a new parking pad at 127 16th Street in accordance with the plan submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer. All right, your motion, Mr. Schneider.
Well, it seems to me if there's any case that justifies hardship here that I have seen, this is it. This is an incredibly small lot. The building was built in such a way that they don't have any flexibility. And to permit just this pad for them to take a car off the street, it's more than justified.
Right. It was cited they have traffic issues with Central School, St. Francis, the church across the street, snow days restrictions. The hardship is a lot that was mentioned, and all houses need some sort of parking. There is no parking, so granting this pad where there's already impervious surface, I don't think it's going to impose a hardship on any of the properties surrounding. It's a reasonable use of the property, and we're going to give them reasonable accommodations. And one of the things that I do like about this is they're not asking for a 20 by 22 garage, take up even more impervious surface. So they're asking for extremely reasonable solutions to their unique problem. And this is one of those lots that I always mention falls into the category of it shouldn't have been subdivided.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's there. We're not going to ask them to tear down the house and give the lot back, right? So it's there. They have to make use of the property, and this is property rights versus strict application of the code. So I think it meets all the.
What about our structure, rear yard structure, and everybody's okay? You have variance for 30-foot.
Rear yard setback,
Yeah.
the deck variation, the 10-foot rear yard deck setback variation.
Yeah. And
The rear yard
structure
total-
impervious surface
Right.
coverage variation, yeah. And you
So I'm
easily justified there.
I'm okay with that. The deck, since it's not on grade,
Yeah.
it's my opinion that if a deck is raised, there's still impervious surface underneath. Rain's going to get through the deck boards, and it's still going to percolate in the ground. So I personally, I understand why it's in the codes, and we have to review it, but having a deck doesn't necessarily mean there's truly impervious surface coverage being added.
Right, and then as far as what was it, where I lost it, the structure, just because the lot size again becomes the hardship on.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else with comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the lot size is the issue. And actually, when I was driving around with all those different one-ways this morning, can't go here, can't go there, I ended up driving by that lot on, was it Crescent or 8th Street there?
Right, the little one.
The little one,
yeah.
which, and the house is obviously there and built, looks great.
Yeah. Another
Needed
one
a
of
bunch of
those.
variations to be able to build that, but it worked out fine.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I thought this was a reasonable request. It's a tiny lot, so and very, very, very reasonable. I mean, we often see requests that are too much, and we have to figure out how to justify it. All right, why don't we take a vote?
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Boyer?
Yes.
Mr. Colang?
Yes.
Ms. Norick?
Yes.
Mr. Sermon?
Yes.
Chairman Duffy?
Chair votes yes as well. So that's going to go as a positive recommendation. Village Board, meeting's on the 23rd in this room. Their meeting starts at 7, though, right? Ours?
7:30.
7:30, okay. Ours is 7. No, 7:30 also. Whatever. 7:30 in this room. If you could come up and sign one of these, greatly appreciate it. Keep one for yourself. And do I have somebody make a motion for me? The move to authorize the chairman to prepare the report and recommendations for the Zoning Board of Appeals for case number 2019 Z11.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. I'm going to open up the microphone for public comment. Anybody want to make any announcements? Nobody's.
Joshua, would you like any of these back?
Oh, I have a copy. Thank you.
Okay.
So we're going to adjourn the meeting.